clears it out of trouble. Throw in for Orlando. Jenkins off her hip. Sanchez comes up. Rodder again out on her. Washington coming off a scoreless tie, a draw against OL Reign. Of course, those teams have played a lot of battles already this year, a couple of regular season matches, and a PK thriller in the semifinal of the Challenge Cup. Washington won that one, and that was scoreless too. And weirdly enough, it kind of feels like OL Reign has been able to figure out this Washington offense. The problem is the Seattle side wasn't scoring until their last match. Finally got on the board in their last game against Kansas City, but had been, I believe, 2.5 games essentially until they got on the board. But it was just a really slow game for Washington. Should have lost if you just look at the stats. Trinity Rodman was completely taken out of that game. Didn't get a shot off, didn't create a chance. That's the first time in her career that that's happened to her. And she's played 36 competitions with Washington. And obviously OL Reign, just with the backline that they have, where to cook. I know I'm forgetting a bunch of people, but they're so solid back there. And I would expect there's going to be some really fun future battles between the Seattle side and the Washington side. Helferty back to stop, slips behind her. Jenkins all over it. Rodder. Left flank, wide channels, dumps it out. Carrie Lawrence back there, playing center back for Amanda Cromwell and her team. Orlando is, a team that lost a lot of players in the offseason, of course, some big names, and have 11 new players on this roster. And so while Lawrence was on the team last year, she didn't make any appearances, and they like her where she is. Look at this through pass. Sydney LaRue. Offside is called. Well, it would have been at least a great shot from LaRue. We'll see it again. Hard to tell, honestly, from what we're seeing here. But I can see it. Maybe a step ahead. Montefusco sends it back to Erin McLeod, keeper for Orlando. It's a Pride team, that played 3 games last week, and Cromwell and really this entire group, including Erin McLeod, who was very vocal about it, was not happy with the performance against Chicago on Sunday. Lost that game 4-2. It really was a weird game. It was very high scoring. It got kind of crazy at the end. The 2 Orlando goals kind of came when the Pride were out of contention. And Orlando was down 1-0 at halftime, and then Chicago put in Mal Pugh, and that was that. Had 2 goals in that one, Pugh did. And McLeod said, both on social media and in some press conferences, that she was very unhappy with her performance and the team's performance. I would say to McLeod, it's always, for keepers, right, they're going to take 4 goals harder than anyone else. It's always worse for you than it actually is in reality. But Chicago is very, very dynamic. When Pugh enters, she just makes everybody else, 10 times better. And they already have some great young players on that Chicago roster. But obviously, they're just looking for a bounce-back game here against another young crew that's very talented in Washington. Sent out into the stands. Sanchez, Staub, working for the back here. Sonnet. Up the middle. Touch swiped away. Quick turnover, Trinity Rodman. Roller, McLeod dives, covers. She'll be sent back there. And a free kick right outside the 18. Let's take another look at this. Well, she slid out of the 18. Touching it, obviously. You can hear Michaela Clough telling her crew, we need one more. This is going to be a really great opportunity for Washington. You see Andy Sullivan at the top here with Sanchez. Sanchez has made one of these free kicks before, just straight to net. And this is much closer than a typical free kick. All right. McLeod gets ready. Sanchez blocked away by that wall in the second chance into the stands. I believe that was Jan's daughter who got a piece of that, and it's a good thing Michaela Clough said we need one more. Rodman off that press. Villacorta swerving through, gets it back for Orlando. Rolls out. Villacorta, just a rookie with this Orlando team. Of course, played for Cromwell at UCLA. So did Sanchez, by the way. Helferty off the toss in. Up in the air, back and forth with Rodman. Bounces off a defender. Try to get it back. Villacorta cuts through, tries to connect with Jan's daughter. Michaela Clough back in the starting lineup for Orlando, got 45 minutes of rest against Chicago. Gives it right back though. Rodder bounces out. See Ashley Hatch there, of course. I mean, it's hard to say who's going to be the main target for Washington. They certainly have a bunch of different options, but Hatch has done a very good job of scoring throughout her career, and of course with Washington, 23 goals with the Spirit. That's almost a record. If she gets one more, that's a record all time in Washington. Of course, Hatch has 2 goals already, too, with the Spirit this season. In the regular season, 6 in the Challenge Cup. Cut through to Sanchez, left alone, and just wide on that one is Harding. Players down in the 18 as well. That would have been her first NWSL goal. Instead, there's an injury. That's Carrie Lawrence for Orlando down on the pitch right now. There was definitely a collision. Of course, we were concerned about as well where this ball was going, but Rodman, a long ball, beautiful slice through. Sanchez trips over Lawrence, and I think she just got her right in the rib cage. Let's see. Yeah, we'll see that one more time. Boy, that was a great opportunity for Washington as well. Again, we talked about Harding being signed May 1st. She was drafted by Washington in 2022. But Lawrence is down right now for Orlando, and of course she's moved into that center back spot. And with Kylie Strom out because of COVID protocol, Cromwell, if this ends up being an injury that keeps Lawrence out, might have to get a little bit creative here. Again, Washington, mentioned that O'Hara excused absence. Gabby Vincent's out. Baggett sustained a very scary injury against North Carolina in the Challenge Cup. And then Dorian Bailey's also been out with a cheekbone injury. Avery Collins is out. I mean, they've got a fair amount of injuries. Miki Owen, of course, has been out for the majority of this season. So they've had to plug in different players too, and Harding is one of them, getting the start today. So you see Chris Ward, head coach for Washington, took over last year to finish out the season. Of course, was a head coach when Washington won the championship, and they decided to keep him on, and he's had a very successful run with the Spirit so far. Of course, making it to the Challenge Cup final, losing to North Carolina in that one 2-1. And it just feels like with the Spirit and Trinity Rodman being just 20 years old that the future is really bright. But really scary moment here as Lawrence is still yet to get up. Training staff is out right now, and it looks like, I mean, just based on this, on the length of Lawrence being down, it's very likely that they sub her out. Now, you saw Presley getting warm, Parker Roberts as well for Orlando, but Toni Presley would be a good option here. They probably have to shift things around, or maybe she would play wide. Oh, excuse me, never mind. Lawrence is a center back. I'm always thinking of her as wide. Great to see Carrie Lawrence up, though. Doesn't look particularly steady right now, and she'll get some help from her teammates as Cromwell looks on for Orlando. Big round of applause for Lawrence, who walks off. And again, it just appeared like she got hit with a follow-through from Sanchez, you know, flailing over her. See, Cromwell in her first year as head coach with Orlando came into a situation, you know, where the Pride had lost a lot of their big pieces, Harris, Alex Morgan, and they're just kind of in a bit of a rebuild, but the regular season has been very successful, as I said, and, you know, they're just trying to find chemistry in each spot. Rotter watches it go out. Play resumes here. 15 minutes into this one, we don't have a score between the Pride and the Spirit. Helferty, Kingsbury. Had to make 9 saves against OL Reign, Kingsbury did. It was, again, a very lopsided stats-wise performance by OL Reign, and they just couldn't find the back of the net. 20-7, they outshot Washington in that one. And Kingsbury, of course, just having a very Kingsbury day. You can see Sullivan in the back tonight for Washington. Goes off Peterson, and Lawrence is back on. That's great to see. Carrie Lawrence will stay in. As you see, that's Courtney Peterson for Orlando. Whiff on that one from Hash, and McLeod is able to get there. So Ashley Hatch intended target on that one, as you saw Lawrence and Montefusco racing back. Rodman off the long ball, just trying to get some separation. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're 1v1 running up the field, though, with Ashley Hatch. LaRue sends it behind to Peterson, who will take this throw in. See the Pride jerseys for Orlando. One of many Pride nights going on around the NWSL. Of course, it's a month, well, it's not technically the month of June, but we're coming up on it. Jan's daughter with some pressure. Rodman with her right foot. Looking for Hatch. Clough. Ahead to LaRue. A little too far ahead. Sonnet's there. Big pass up. McLeod shuffles back. Keeps it on her feet. McLeod, 39 years old with this Orlando team, and she was just signed for a contract extension that lasts until 2023. So they're really liking what they see from McLeod, and of course, it just helps to have stability, especially at that position, to just know that, you know, that's your keeper going forward, and it also just helps the mindset of a player to know I'm with this team to stay. And, you know, I think McLeod, and it's evident by some of the interviews that she does, as you see Chris Ward for Washington, and she really wore that loss. And you maybe wouldn't see many players, you know, apologize to the fans for that 4-2 loss to Chicago. And again, I didn't think it was like the worst thing I've ever seen. And, you know, McLeod was just very honest, and she wants the team to do better, but she was holding herself accountable as much as anyone else. Rodman takes a shot, and it goes in! Trinity Rodman with her first regular season goal this year. Just a rocket from Rodman, and it's 1-0 Washington. Not much you can do about that if you're McLeod. What a shot from Rodman. I love the celebration, too, like it's nothing. But we've been waiting for that from Rodman. Just, you know, of course, she had a great Challenge Cup. First of all, this starts with Sanchez, I'll say. Harding, swarm of jerseys around her. That leaves Rodman open. I mean, that's just fantastic placement. Picture perfect there from Trinity Rodman. It's 1-0 Washington. Yeah, but again, it just felt like she was due for that. I mean, Rodman now has 7 regular season goals.
Here we go, guys. Here we go. Hey, that's good. Stay safe. Left foot, into it. That's good, son. Yep.
Peterson.
Here we go, here we go.
Orlando charging right back, getting a corner kick, looking for the equalizer here. Through the air, intended for Pruitt. Clough has a chance, takes a shot. It's blocked by Rodman. All the way back to the midfield. Lawrence picks it up. Sailing towards Jenkins. Kingsbury comes out, hauls it in. Here's that goal again. I mean, look at that. McLeod gave it her best shot. Here she comes again, Rodman. LaRue tripped up in the midfield. That's going to be a yellow card given out to Feist. First one we've seen tonight. Dangerous play there. By the way, that's the earliest goal by Washington in all competitions, which is kind of a crazy stat when you think about the way they were scoring in the Challenge Cup. I mean, Washington scored 13 goals in the Challenge Cup, and none of them were before this point. But that was only goal 4 of the regular season for the Spirit. Just looking to, you know, build off that momentum. And the thing is, if, you know, Hatch has been going, she's got 2 goals already. If you get Rodman going, that's going to be a problem. Pruitt snakes through on the left side, blocked away by Rodman. And a little bit of pain after that tackle as she limps to play some defense on a corner kick coming. Through the air, header, Jenkins unable to score. What a sequence there for Orlando, and it doesn't result in a goal. That would have been the first regular season goal for Jenkins. And ever since Rodman found the back of the net, Orlando's been hungry. LaRue in the 18, off a cross. Another corner coming. Let's see this again. Peterson. The header perfect. Jenkins off the crossbar. Or excuse me, off the post, not the crossbar. Wow. Well, they'll get another chance at it. Another header back. Who did it go off on? Michaela Clough was in the mix there. Kingsbury directing traffic right now for Washington. We'll get another corner here for Orlando. Jansdotter with the kick. Plays it high. And that one crashing in. Kingsbury. Jenkins was right there, but not enough juice on that one. Again, that header off the post from Jenkins was the best offensive look, obviously, that Orlando has had. Down 1-0. Trinity Rodman has the lone goal. Helferty. Hatch. Harding. Goes off on Peterson. Off the bounce. Feist. Again, Peterson. Pruitt. That's going to be Orlando ball. The Spirit have had a lot of recent success against Orlando. They're unbeaten in the last 5 matches versus the Pride. Already up 1-0. Sonnet's a little bit upset with that one, but Orlando will get it, pull it back. Montefusco, Jenkins. Controls. Look at these moves, Darian Jenkins. Cut off by Sonnet, but here's a corner for Orlando. These corner kicks from Jansdotter have been very, very good tonight. I hope I didn't just jinx her, but they've looked very solid. The blast bounces around. No one could get a shot off. Boy, that was a couple of seconds in the 18 with no shot. McLeod comes out. Peterson. Lawrence, Celia racing forward. There's another corner coming for Orlando. So something that Cromwell mentioned in the coach's call this week is that they're looking for those diagonal kind of long balls a little bit more, and they want a goal off of them. They haven't had a goal yet, and they're kind of just leaving it towards LaRue or leaving it towards Jenkins. But even though they haven't scored off of one yet, I think that it's resulted in corners. I mean, it's been making offense happen for Orlando, and they've been working on that a lot. Through the air, Pruitt, back of her head, out of play. Kingsbury. I mean, there's just been so much to say about the way that she's played for Washington and her career in the NWSL. It's been something special. In fact, she's approaching 25 shutouts in her career. Of course, she had one against OL Reign last weekend on Sunday. She's 4th all time in that category. It's just Barnhart, Franch, Nayer above her. I would say that's some great company. Jenkins plays with it on the right wing. Rodder gets it out of trouble, still with Orlando. Jansdotter. Fly ball into the 18. Sonnet, Clough. No clear possession yet. Rodman and LaRue head to head. LaRue back to press. Pruitt in the 18. That could have been really pretty. Andy Sullivan was right there though. Villacorta right back for Orlando. Here's a corner. Well, that's what we thought. That's what Villacorta thought. That's what the Orlando fans thought. But it seems like when she knocked that out on Rodman, she was already out. Two young players that their coaches are obviously very excited about. I mean, Rodman's got all the accolades, and Villacorta played for Cromwell at UCLA and has been through some adversity, you know. Tore her ACL in her first game as a senior in college with Cromwell. As it looks like Rodder is down. Looks like she's holding, well, it looks like she was holding both legs at first, but now the left leg, so the training staff will come out and check on her. But yeah, Villacorta has now made 3 straight starts under Cromwell, who, you know, said she's a rookie, and so there's going to be some rookie mistakes, but you know, she's leaning on 2 unexperienced NWSL players in that midfield, and that's who she's trusting, Clough and Villacorta. And she said that so far, you know, both players have just really acted like professionals in their first year. Clough even, you know, will call Cromwell and, you know, kind of talk through mistakes and, you know, is almost apologetic sometimes if she hasn't played perfectly. And Cromwell says she has a ton of respect for Michaela Clough just for doing that and reaching out. And so it seems like both of these rookies very attentive under Cromwell. And of course, she's used to coaching young players in college, so it makes the transition, I'm sure, a little bit easier for some of these rookies on the Pride. Rodder steps out. Of course, you see Andy Sullivan for Washington. Kingsbury, I mean, these are not rookies for the Spirit, and Sullivan, you know, they sorely missed her when she was out with injury. Finally came back against OL Reign. Pruitt all over, looking to disrupt. Jenkins, Staub. Handball. Looks like that touched the arm of Celia. That's what referee Matt Thompson says. Otherwise, if it didn't, that almost was chaos for Washington, because you can see how aggressive this press is right now for Orlando. Quickly to Sonnet in the 6, and then, here comes Leah Pruitt. That could have been really bad. If it wasn't Sonnet and Staub and Kingsbury, that might have been really bad, but it's that cruise, so they survive. Staub, by the way, 50th appearance with, in the NWSL. Absolutely crucial part of the Washington defense, and Chris Ward cannot say enough nice things about Sam Staub. In fact, he says that she should get a look for the U.S. Women's National Team. LaRue, offside again. There's that diagonal pass that's what they're doing. And apparently in training, Celia said, well, what if I don't see her, meaning LaRue? And Cromwell said, you don't even need to see LaRue. That's kind of the point, I guess, is that no one sees LaRue coming, and then she's just speeding down that flank, and you're in trouble. So they're just leaving it out there for LaRue and saying, go get it. They'll do it to Jenkins as well. Peterson headed down to Pruitt. Sonnet, Staub, Pruitt, Kingsbury. Look at this. This is much different. I was on the Chicago call, and as a trip there for sure. Celia, Jansdottir, both in the mix there for Orlando. But yeah, I mean, Cromwell said it. Pride just seemed exhausted. And they had played 3 games that week, and it was showing in it for a team that likes to press and they'll play really high up on you. If that's not working, perhaps it's well, then your game plan isn't working and you're a little bit easier to beat. And so you can just feel the energy right now in this building for the Pride. The thing is, Rodman had a beauty of a goal, and it's 1-0, so playing for that equalizer as well before halftime. I think we're going to have a fair amount of stoppage time, though, because there's been a couple of injuries. Jansdottir off the interception. Chasing it down. Can't keep it in. Oh, she did. But ended up going to Washington anyway. Jansdottir will play the 10 for Orlando. And, I mean, once Marta went down, there was a lot of question marks. You know, of who's going to play where. Jansdottir's the 10. You'll see Clough in more of a 6 role, but Cromwell said that's subject to change. I mean, just based on their skill set, she likes Jansdottir in the 10, but, you know, in the future with Clough being a rookie, could that change? Yeah. Sanchez. Left for Rodman. Peterson. Rodman goes stumbling down. Maybe got a little extra shove there. Peterson getting a slight warning. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but just a slight warning. Didn't get a foul call or anything. LaRue. Pokes it behind her. Staub. Hatch. Staub. Broder's back in. Just saw Lawrence just slip. Otherwise, it would have been possession. Orlando back with Washington. Sullivan flicks it behind. Sonnet. One touch Staub. Villacorta with the takeaway. Clough plays through some contact there. She's down on the green. We don't have a whistle. Well, we do now because Clough is down. Definitely was some contact there. Let's see. I mean, it was, they were both, it was really the aftermath, and it was more Clough was going full speed ahead. She couldn't stop. And she's up now and trying to walk it off. It did kind of look like there was maybe some knee-to-knee contact. Again, Exploria Stadium, Orlando, Florida. 1-0 is the score. Trinity Rodman with a early goal here in the first half. That's been the difference in the game. Washington up on the road. Spirit just looking for win number 2 on the season. And across all competitions, they haven't had a win in 5 straight. Of course, that is counting the Challenge Cup final, which doesn't count in the regular season, by the way. But I'm sure it does count, you know, mentally for Washington, just trying to get back in the win column. I mean, in terms of stats so far, I mean, this game's decently even. Both sides have had 5 shots. Both sides have just had 1 shot on target. But of course, the 1 shot on target went in for Washington. That is the true difference. Orlando's had 13 touches in the box, by the way, whereas Washington's only had 5. It really was a big chunk of this first half for the Pride spent in the 18. Peterson, Jansdotter back and forth. Peterson will throw it in. Jansdotter again. Cleared out by Washington. Lawrence backtracks, Harding on her back. Sent to McLeod. Montefusco. Lawrence, Hatch is behind her. She came flying in. Off the toe of Peterson, Cromwell cheering on the team from the sideline. Again, it's Club's Mission Rainbow match for Orlando. They are paying tribute to the victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting. So the portion of these special kits are going to go to the One Pulse Foundation, which, you know, unfortunately we live in a world where this continues to happen, but it is a very good thing that Orlando's doing with this Pride celebration. Pruitt runs right into a defender there in Harding. Clough. Sanchez gets it back for Washington, but she fouls at the end. A stretch out there, and Sanchez is slow to get up. Jansdotter checking on her. Looks like Sanchez might get a card. Sullivan, who's the captain, comes up and talks to Thompson about it. Dangerous tackle there. However, she bore the brunt of it. Just the awkward step and way her leg kind of collapsed. But it is Pride ball. That is the second yellow card. That's the second yellow card, by the way, for Washington, because Feist got one early. So Sanchez and Feist are both playing with a yellow. That's something to keep in mind as we head towards the end of this first half. Celia slices it forward. Jenkins doesn't get there, still with the Pride. Jansdotter is constantly down on the pitch, I feel. She plays a very aggressive style, and Her team gets it back. Montefusco. Harding all over her. Lawrence. All the way back to Kingsbury. Too much mustard on that one. And a goal kick coming. You see Lawrence, just kind of motioning sorry. But you can feel like the practice and what the diagonal kind of long ball that Cromwell was talking about, that is what Lawrence is kind of trying to do here. As you see all of the Pride celebrations for, first of all, the Orlando Pride just kind of lends itself to that, and NWSL is starting to celebrate Pride. It will happen all month in the month of June. Of course, it is Pride Month, and, it is a special place in a lot of NWSL player, coaches, staff, front office members, broadcasters' hearts. So it's a great thing that the NWSL is doing. It's very important to this, group of players, and I love to see that the NWSL has completely and totally embraced that. Kingsbury. Rodder's going to have to walk all the way back, then throw this in. And she does over the head of Jenkins. See, they're playing some defense there. Rodder. Catch. Had that early pass ahead to her. Defense got back and just kind of muscled her out of position. That's kind of it from Hatch so far today. Doesn't mean it's it for Hatch, trust me. Then she already has 2 goals this season, 6 in the Challenge Cup. Just incredible numbers by Hatch over the course of her career. And she's only in her 6th season. Bodies falling all over Jansdottir LaRue. LaRue's kind of slow to get up here. Villacorta. LaRue. Circles back. Dish behind. Montefusco. There's that diagonal pass to Jenkins. Off the bounce, Darian Jenkins. Did she touch it or not? She did not. Over, I guess, her leg, over the ball there. So everybody comes down to join her in the attacking third, as we'll get 2 minutes of stoppage time here. We're already through 1. Jansdottir couldn't get there. Back with the Pride. One final push this first half for Orlando. Villacorta splits the D. Not quite the look Orlando was needing. Again, there was a really good stretch in the first half where Orlando got a bunch of corners. And of course, the best being as Villacorta immediately gets hit in the head. So, of course, Thompson is going to motion for the training staff to come out. That is an absolute necessity. Always, that is what they're, trained to have happen here. We'll see this again. Right in the face. Yep. It doesn't... Villacorta immediately got up, but they told her to stay down because, they want to make sure with any sort of contact to the head that they have the training staff come out and do, the concussion protocol right away to make sure she's all right. And, she has a little bit teary eyes, of course. She just got hit in the face with a ball, so it's not going to feel good regardless. And that was, inches away as LaRue stretching out there for Orlando. We saw her kind of gingerly get up a couple of plays ago. Yeah, I was, speaking to that as Villacorta is on the sideline right now. You see the training staff just making sure she's completely 100% good to go. She says she's all right. She's going to get some water, and she'll come back in when she can. Rodder comes in and checks on her. Obviously, that was not purposeful at all. But yeah, Orlando has 6 corners. Washington doesn't have any. And yet Orlando is down. This was a score of the Chicago game, by the way. Orlando was down 1-0. They ended up losing that game. Down 1-0 at halftime, I should say. Ended up losing that game 4-2. So they know that things can be very different in the second half. But they also scored 2 goals in the second half. Orlando's had a decent amount of multi-goal performances. They've actually scored multiple goals in 3 straight. So if that speaks to the second half, I'm sure they'll take it, as long as they don't allow more Washington scores. And Washington's just been patient in the attack. They actually have the advantage in possession time. But Rodman her goal was phenomenal. Hatch, look at that. Rodman, back to Hatch. This is danger. Feist, Sanchez rips one off the body of Carrie Lawrence. Jansdotter. Jenkins. That's time to set up. Pruitt. Staub. Right behind her. Sullivan gets it back. Kingsbury. Staub. Sonnet for Washington. Big pass ahead to Rodman. Heads it forward. Nobody home. McLeod comes. Montefusco. LaRue. Peterson with the touch. Staub cuts her off. Kingsbury shuffles back. And there's the whistle for the first half. We've played 45 minutes and change, and it's 1-0. Trinity Rodman, who turned 20 last week, with the difference maker right now. Just a beautiful strike. Right foot, left corner, and Rodman with her first regular season goal of 2022 puts the Spirit up 1-0 on the road against the Orlando Pride. Halftime, we'll come back for the second half after this. Second half, and it's 1-0. A lead right now for the Spirit on the road. And the reason for that is Trinity Rodman. Trinity Rodman with her first regular season goal of 2022. Put Washington up. And it does appear that Washington will make a quick sub. So Rodder is going to come out. Now, we did see Rodder go down, step off, then come back in for Washington. And now she'll be officially removed from this game for the Spirit. And in her place, they'll put in Peterson, Jansdotter. Sonnet has Jansdotter on her back, flicks it into the stands. Sydney LaRue. Saw this awesome video on LaRue's, I believe it was her Twitter, she might have put it on Instagram too, of her son scoring a goal in youth soccer and then basically doing her celebration. Just an awesome thing to see. LaRue, left wing, slices through, off a cross, and it bounces his way to Kingsbury. Accidentally ran into Jenkins too. Stop. Celia McLeod. McLeod had kind of come out for that one wide. Centers, Pruitt. Falls down, still gets it off to Clough. Off left, LaRue. Villacorta, good to see her in after got hit in the face straight on. Lawrence, Villacorta. Falls down, gets up, keeps playing. Again, it's been 5 straight without a loss against Orlando for Washington. And actually, Orlando hasn't had a home win since September 11th of last year. Of course, they have 2 wins this year, but they're on the road against North Carolina and Angel City. Montefusco, McLeod. Orlando patient, Harding, Rodman, Feist. Little bit of a press here. Looking for the seams. Celia. Quickly cut off. Sullivan. Rodman. Left for Feist. Too high. Out of play. No, there's just a couple more games for each team. About 4 across the league until the international window for everybody, but Washington actually has an extra game in there because they had a game postponed because they made the final. So they're going to have to play Chicago twice here in the span of 9 days. That should be very interesting. Now that Pugh's back, Washington will play Chicago next too, at home. At Audi Field, I should say, not at Chicago's home. LaRue. Sonnet backs it up. Hatch. Peterson. Her and LaRue. But it's off on LaRue. Staub. Settles. Not a whole lot of action to start this second half from either side. Just being extra cautious. Montefusco. LaRue. A tap to Pruitt. Back to LaRue. Looking to get numbers here. Villacorta surveys. Not enough on that to get to Celia. Flung the other way. Feist all alone in the 18. Feist. McLeod denies. Villacorta helps her out. Everybody falls down on that one. But what an effort there by the Orlando defense. McLeod, of course. Villacorta got back. Let's see this again. Bailey Feist was definitely onside and alone. Gets the touch. Second one is a little too far in front of her. That's what happened there. And so she has to slide to try to get it. McLeod, of course, in perfect positioning. McLeod denies. Villacorta tumbles over. Erin McLeod is, you know, as veterans go. And it saves like that. That's why they signed a contract for next year with McLeod. Another chance, and it goes wide this time for Washington off a header. Back-to-back opportunities. Staub with a good look there for the Spirit. So Orlando survives. You know, I had moments ago said that there wasn't a lot of action, and now there is. Staub outside the 6. That's a great look. I think it would have gone in because McLeod was obviously facing the opposite direction. Clough. Pruitt. Jenkins on the through. Out to that corner. Service in. LaRue barrels into the defender. Someone's down in the 18 here for Washington. It's Harding. Definitely, or excuse me, that's Helferty. Definitely got the after effect of, let's see. Yeah, shoulder. Yeah, shoulder to head. So heads up there by Thompson to call up the training staff once again. Like I said, with Villacorta and anything like that, they're going to immediately call the training staff out to double check and make sure the players are all right, especially with, you know, with head injuries. They're not going to take any chances. Again, this Helferty does lead the club right now with 2 assists. Was a rookie last year with Washington. It's kind of stepped into a starting role with the Spirit. Sometimes she'll come off as a reserve, but she's definitely a crucial part to what they're doing, and Ward trusts her a lot. Again, I mentioned this, but the Spirit don't have a ton of options off the bench today, and they have used one. Cam Bogelski they put in for Rotter. LaRue and company need the equalizer right now, just trying to stop the success of Washington here at Exploria Stadium. You know, I mentioned that the Spirit haven't lost in 5 matches to the Pride, so they've got 3 wins and 2 draws. They've also only allowed 4 goals in that time span as you see the sunset. So picture perfect in Orlando, Florida. We were kind of bracing for some rain. It's been fairly decent, all things considered, as Helferty's going to walk off. It appears to be all right. We'll see if Helferty stays in or if Ward makes a sub. Rodman on the road. I mean, her goal was so fantastic. The placement of it, just in that left corner, slipped it right by Erin McLeod. And that's a game winner as it stands. I mentioned this, 3 goals allowed by Orlando in the second half against Chicago. 2 of them were to Malkview. I have a feeling Malkview might have a couple more braces again against a couple more opponents this year, just based on what we saw from her against Chicago. I mean, against, Orlando. She's on Chicago. Peterson. Celia. Clough. Villacorta. Punch forward over Pruitt's head. Sanchez. Curved into Hatch. Slicing through. Hatch lets it rip, and McLeod makes a save. Boy, that started from Sanchez with a beautiful ball. Hatch, of course, has the skill set to make something work. Look at this from Sanchez. And again, you just leave it and you say, okay, I'm going to let one of my best players, one of my best teammates make something happen. And she did. McLeod got her fingertips on that, but ultimately it was going wide. Oh, no, that was going in. McLeod, look at that. That was absolutely going in if McLeod didn't just touch that. All right, Sullivan is going to exit, and we'll see Taylor Almer come in. Morgan Goff has also entered the game for Washington. That's going to take off Helferty for good. So Helferty is, after that apparent head injury, out of the game officially. And Morgan Goff has entered. And again, I mentioned the other sub with Sullivan and Almer being switched off. Montefusco. Back to McLeod, who definitely just kept the comeback dreams alive for Orlando. Celia. Montefusco. McLeod. You can see the shading there from Harding. Sanchez as well. Montefusco accelerates. Jenkins turns on the Jets. Poked out. Jenkins believes that went off of Sonnet, so does Cromwell. Now you see LaRue challenging Kingsbury. Lawrence. Chipped wide. Sanchez charging forward. Hatch. McLeod reads well. Look at those reflexes from McLeod showing him off there. Because that was danger zone for sure. Feist gets it right back for Washington, who's definitely controlled this second half. And of course, Orlando is, often playing high. They want to press, and the energy hasn't been as strong. And Washington has figured it out pretty well. Harding is way offside. And I think Washington's going to have to, deal with a lot of this pressure for the rest of the season. Because OL Reign in the semifinal of the Challenge Cup began to do that. And a lot of teams have been following suit. But you'd rather learn early, and figure out the way that you need to kind of adjust your game now than, late in the season. And Washington knows that well. They won the championship last year, so it's not like this is a team that's returning a lot of those key pieces that can't be right back in the mix later on. And I think that's going to stand true for a lot of the teams actually at the bottom of the standings right now. North Carolina is at the very bottom. If I'm playing them, I'm still pretty nervous. Carriabello just came in, by the way, for Orlando. Get some fresh legs in there for the Pride. Took out Celia. Montefusco hesitates. Lawrence. Bouncer to LaRue, keeps it in. Sydney LaRue. Goff. Covering. Lawrence. And Jenkins unable to connect. Gunny Jonsdottir, of course, is moved into that leadership role after Marta tore her ACL in the Challenge Cup. It was really, it's devastating for teams. I think Chicago felt that too. Oh. Jenkins almost got a turnover there. Reignited energy-wise here. Orlando on that press. But yeah, Chicago with Tierna Davidson tearing her ACL, that was mentally challenging for them too. It's tough when you lose not only your best player, but your leader. And with Marta, she's both. And they've just had to adjust Orlando, and it didn't go so well in the Challenge Cup. Didn't win a game, but it's going a lot better in the regular season. And now that LaRue is back and McLeod's back healthy, that's just been a real positive for the Pride. Lawrence tracks it down. Pruitt with her body. Sonnet. Aggressive play there. Sonnet was a player that was out too for the Challenge Cup with a abdomen injury. And now that she's back with Washington, it makes it that much harder to get past the Spirit, because you've got Staub, who's a young talent. Then you got Sonnet, who's a very experienced player. Of course, has 65 caps with the U.S. Women's National Team. And then you got Kingsbury, who, I don't know, might be one of the keepers of the future with the U.S. Women's National Team. Certainly made a name for herself against Uzbekistan in those friendlies. We got another international window coming up, so we'll see. But she's definitely making a name for herself, and has made a name for herself with Washington and in the NWSL, that's for sure. Off of Villacorta again. Now Sanchez to Hatch. in the 18, takes a shot and scores. Ashley Hatch with her 3rd goal of the year. A bullet. Well, that's how Washington will break you down. Look at this, Sanchez again. So they had missed on the last opportunity, and so this time just goes with the short pass. I mean, that lefty knock from Hatch. Well, that's Ashley Hatch yet again. It's 2-0 Washington. And now Hatch, by the way, with that goal in the 66th minute, is now the all-time leading scorer in Spirit history. So she needed one more, and she does it here. She's got 24 goals in her career with Washington, and now she's an all-time leader. Just incredible stuff. That's obviously really tough for Orlando, as the Pride have made a sub. They put in Abby Kim. I thought Kim looked really, really good in the limited time she saw against Chicago. And it seems like Cromwell would agree, put her in a lot earlier than she did against the Red Stars. Jenkins cuts through to Clough. Abello has a chance. No shot again for Orlando. They're just not getting that many shots off. That's, part of the problem. Is Kingsbury hasn't been forced to make too many saves yet. In terms of shots in this game, 9-6, of course, in Washington's favor. And Orlando's just had one shot on goal. And we saw all the shots on goal for OL Reign last week, and they still didn't even score. Kingsbury got 9 saves. So you're going to really have to make her work in order to get a goal and cut this lead in half. Of course, Orlando's had some success late in games. They've actually had 3 of their 7 goals across all competitions this season after the 80th minute. And the Spirit, on the flip side of that, have not allowed a goal after the 60th minute. So we'll see which one wins out here. I mean, even if Orlando scores, they're going to need another here for the equalizer, but Kim is offside. Looks like we will have a sub here at some point. Looks like Alexander's going to check in. Tanea Alexander, one of the draft picks signed by Washington. Both sides arguing. One off of Rodman. Abella will throw it in. Jansdotter not on the same page with LaRue. It goes out on her. LaRue snakes through. Slides it back. Wants possession time here for Orlando. There's still time. I mean, there's 20 minutes left in this one. Jansdotter boxes out. Peterson Ricochets off a defender. Kim in the 18. Off a cross and a corner is coming for Orlando. Pride fans really excited about that one. Again, I think Kim does, of course, bring in fresh legs, but I think she has this, burst of speed that can be really helpful with what Orlando's trying to do on that press. And he saw it there, earned a corner, kept it in. Seems like that maybe would go out. Set piece for the Pride. LaRue and Jenkins both got a piece of that one. Went off on Jenkins and out. Still not a great shot on goal, and that's what the Pride are in desperate need of here. So Alexander will come in. She'll replace fellow first-year Harding. Gentine Alexander. Five's her teammate. Harding getting some love from Ward. And we'll also see Amber Brooks take out Bailey Feist. Brooks has played 10,000 minutes in the NWSL. Hatch is tripped by Kim. Right in front of Thompson too, so of course that's going to be a foul as the rain appears like a little bit of rain in Orlando. Sonnet racing forward, push wide, now forward, nobody home on that. Alexander just bodying Clough there. Ultimately, Orlando gets it back. Lawrence, Abello, centers, Montefusco. Jenkins off a defender. Again, this second half and this match in general has a very different feel from that Chicago match for Orlando, where it seemed like anything was possible and there was just a ton of chaos at the end. Washington seems very in control of this match right now. Of course, they're up. Yes, I know that, but they've also just been so patient, and the two goals have come in beautiful spurts and perfect moments. Of course, the Rodman one was a beauty. We're going to get a card here. Villacorta goes down. Hatch will get her first card. That's the third yellow card for a Spirit player. Sanchez has one, Feist is out, but she has one. And now Hatch has one. That little rip of Villacorta who goes down. Clough in the 6, Kim. Abello rips one, and it's wide. But like I was saying, this just seems, and of course there's 15 minutes left, but Chicago took their foot off the gas against Orlando in the final 20 minutes of that match. You know, they had scored, and I think they felt like it was done, and it started to get really ugly and strange. There was 2 PKs at the end, one for each side. It was just a weird finish. Washington looks poised right now. And considering they're still dealing with injuries, I mean, O'Hara, who's one of the best players in the NWSL and one of the best players in the world ever, is out right now. And Washington has been pretty controlled. All right, we got another yellow card. This time it's the first one against Orlando. Montefusco handed that one as things get a little bit testy towards the end of this one. Remember, over the course of the season, if you get 5 yellow cards in any of the regular season matches in the NWSL, you have to sit a game, which could come into play for players down the road and probably will for somebody. So it's not just about the single game implications, it can affect you in the future. Kim slides it out of Bello, off Brooks. Montefusco hops it to Jenkins, turns on the Jets, blows by Goff. Here comes Rodman to help out. Rodman lowers her shoulder and gets it back for Washington. Couple of subs coming in for Orlando. Jordan Listro will come in. Also looks like Doyle will check in. So Peterson comes out, Doyle comes in. Tony Presley comes in, so 3 subs here for Orlando. Presley comes in at center back. Ooh. Friday night, I guess. By the way, Presley has a goal this year. She has a penalty kick. It was in a, talk about wacky finish. As Jan Sutter comes out, Julie Doyle checks in for her. Just an absolutely chaotic finish against Kansas City. And it ended in a draw. And it looked like Orlando was going to lose that game. They were up, and then they gave up 2 goals. Hamilton and Bennett scored for Kansas City, and then a penalty was earned at the very end. If my memory is correct, it was stoppage time. Presley had never taken a PK, scored, got a point. So Orlando certainly had some crazy finishes. Maybe this one will be the same. Alexander in the 18. Here's Hatch, already has a score. Sanchez. Wide to Rodman. Head to head with a Bello. Tries a nutmeg. I think Rodman pulled her hair. Accidentally. Does have long hair, but just trying to get back in position, maybe gripped it. And that's going to be, obviously, back with Orlando. A little back and forth, and I think there's a bit of a warning. And the referees want to talk about it. I should have said this earlier, but with Montefusco getting that card, that's her 3rd one. And remember what I said about 5 and you have to sit? So she's kind of close to that for Orlando. And that's the most of anybody in the NWSL right now in terms of cards. So Thompson is off discussing. And Rodman's going to get a little bit of a warning here. I would have to see the replay to know exactly what happened there. Definitely was some pushing. But now Rodman, after the fact, is going to be given a yellow card. So, I mean, We've had an influx of yellow cards. That's 4 for Washington now. And of course, I mentioned the Montefusco one for Orlando. Hatch. Alexander offside. Still a lone NWSL match going on tonight, but there's a ton this weekend. As always, there's even some Monday. Jenkins, LaRue. Villacorta. Full turnaround. Lost Almer there. Foul. Kick coming. It does seem like Washington learned from that shaky stretch in the first half. Short pass does not go well. Sanchez has an opportunity here. Doesn't have numbers. Pulls it back, goes to Rodman. See Alexander coming forward. And that one will just roll to McLeod. A goal in each half for Washington right now. The first from Rodman, then from Hatch. Hatch has 3 goals already this season. Became Washington's all-time leading scorer in just her 6th NWSL season too. Kim took a weird bounce. Look at that, keeps it in, another corner. I mean, that's been effective, just leaving those out to Kim, and she's been able to get there as those long strides, and of course, smart enough to just get a corner off of those, realizing she doesn't have the best angle. Abello. Kingsbury blocks that down. Jenkins tries a shot. Bodied by Hatch. And Listro's going to be called for that one outside the area. Before that, there was a block on the shot from Jenkins. She was kind of holding her foot after that. Let's see. Well, this is just a look at Ashley Hatch and what she's contributed today, which is a goal, and a beautiful one at that. And just purely beat Montefusco to that. And, of course, didn't have time to square shoot, just lets it rip and scores. And Hatch will exit the game with another very successful night in a Spirit uniform. Maddie Elwell comes in, and Spirit have put in a lot of young players towards the end of this game. Not that they don't already have a very young roster, but they put in more young players. Elwell's just 22. I mean, they used Harding today, who's 23. And of course, Rodman 23 for Sanchez, but Alexander's a rookie. Almer is very young. Goff as well, 24, playing some defense. Clough in the area. Sonnet denies. Goff, Clough, head to head. Play on. Villacorta. Doyle. Out of the 18. Presley. Clough. Jenkins. And Kingsbury just races out. Washington, I'm sure, would love to just bleed some clock here as we head towards the end of this match. Again, at Exploria Stadium. Almer. Alexander. Battling with a bellow. Washington keeps. Jenkins. Beautiful pass to Clough. Villacorta has some space. Falls down. Back with the Spirit. A whistle back towards Villacorta, who's still down. She's been banged up a little bit today. I mean, obviously the big one being getting hit right in the face accidentally from Rotter, but it was, you know, inches away. Got knocked in the head. I think Orlando players want that to be a foul, and, you know, they're frustrated with the way that this match has gone, looking at 2 straight losses for the Pride. And it does look like also Orlando is going to continue without a win at home. I mentioned it, but the last win was September 11th, 2021 at Exploria Stadium, of course. They've just, for some reason, found more success on the road. I mean, they went into Angel City and won. Rodman almost makes something out of nothing there. Takes a shot, and McLeod denies. Woo, she's good off the bounce, too. Saw that in the Challenge Cup a lot. I mean, she's good in general. I mean, that's a very obvious statement, but off the bounce, she can almost take just as good as shots. I mean, she's a player of the future. I know that, you know, the U.S. Women's National Team giving her a look and stuff, and we'll have a better idea. The World Cup's coming up not too far away. I mean, next year. There's a card. It's going to go against Brooks. Amber Brooks for Washington. So we've got 5 cards against the Spirit. That time, let's see. Just a complete shove from behind by Brooks of Doyle. Very physical game for Washington. Especially for a 2-0 win. But remember, these teams are familiar foes because they played twice already in the Challenge Cup. So as we get 6 minutes of stoppage time, there's just probably a little extra something there, you know, getting sick of each other a little bit. So quite a bit of stoppage time. Talked about Orlando has had 3 straight games with multiple goals, and now they're looking like they might get shut out here by Kingsbury and the Washington defense. Sanchez. Elwell off a cross. Booted out by Presley. Brooks controls. Sanchez. For Rodman. Off her body, falls down in the 18. Slow to get up, Trinity Rodman. Villacorta moving quickly. Oh, that's Listro. By the way, Listro is kind of a local player as Sanchez gets it right back. This could be bad. Presley. Sanchez goes for it. It's over the crossbar. But anyway, Listro, a fairly local player for Orlando, and, you know, there was a picture on social media the other day of her at a game when she was presumably in high school. And so just what a cool opportunity. And I know that teams are starting to do, well, North Carolina has the academy, and there's a player down for Washington right now. Does look like it might be Sanchez. I don't want to say that for sure until I see the face. It is Sanchez. Not sure what happened there. She's up. Trainer's out. Washington talking things over. Just to finish what I was saying, North Carolina has created an academy, and I did the CONCACAF U17 championships, and they had 3 or 4 players from that academy on the United States team. So talking about building a future and players that you might be able to, you know, get as homegrown talent someday, that's a great spot for the Courage, and I'll be interested to see as the NWSL grows and it's bigger and bigger if that continues to happen. Of course, year 10 of the NWSL. Seen 2 expansion teams join this year, both in California, San Diego, and Angel City. I mean, and the response to those teams has been phenomenal. Helps when you win. I mean, both those teams are at the top of the standings right now. San Diego has been on fire. Jenkins grabs a turnover. That one slides out, and Abella will throw it in. Sanchez is back on. Good to see. Kingsbury, LaRue, his challengers her a little bit. What a different day for Rodman and Washington. Again, didn't have a win in the regular season since the regular season opener against OL Reign. Won that game 2-1. Of course, there's been some postponements, and they did win the semifinal match against OL Reign in the Challenge Cup, but that doesn't count in the regular season standings. So they've been searching for that as Kingsbury sends that towards the midfield. Kim was charging in. LaRue, Clough. Listro comes up. Listro, Clough scores! What a header from Michaela Clough in stoppage time. So that's not a shutout for Kingsbury. And there's about a minute or so left in stoppage time. And I guess you never know here. Listro with her first NWSL assist and Clough with her second NWSL goal. And this starts because Kingsbury sends it to Ulmer in the midfield and it gets by her. Villacorta had picked it up. Now to Clough. Now to Listro. Gets behind Bagelski. Clough charging in. What a play I mean, that's a positive for Cromwell off Listro's left foot. And Clough out of nowhere. Michaela Clough had a goal for Orlando a couple of games ago, and now she gets her second one. This is the first one in the air for for Clough. This could be the final push here for the Pride. Montefusco, Kingsbury watches it go out. Well, I said this stat a little bit earlier, but this continues this weird trend for Orlando and the late goals. That's a fourth goal of 8 that have happened after the 80th minute. I'm sure you can find both positives and negatives in that stat. Rodman. Get a stoppage time goal from Michaela Clough, who's now down on the pitch. Got the lead in half for Orlando, but time is ticking. Kim. Listro has a chance. Staub back to defend. Off across. Kim. Ball left in the area. Doyle playing with it. Jenkins has a shot and she scores! A tie game! Darian Jenkins might have just earned Orlando a point. Chaos at Exploria Stadium. Look at this. I mean, Listro, again, she comes in and makes a huge difference for this team. I mean, wow. Okay, Doyle in the 18 slips through LaRue. Who's there? Jenkins. Nobody knows where Jenkins is. That's her first goal of the regular season. And that's the final whistle. Orlando scores 2 goals in stoppage time and gets out of here with the tie. That is unbelievable. That's going to, I mean, as we go through the course of the season, I'm sure that comeback will be replayed and replayed. That is one of the best comebacks I've ever seen. And Orlando, who looked like they were going to get loss number 3, or excuse me, 2. No, it's 3 on the regular season, just somehow got out of here with a tie. So now they're 2-2-2. Washington does not get win number 2, and they move to 1-1-3 on the regular season. Here's that final goal again. You just have to look at it. I mean, once Clough got on the board and it's stoppage time, you think, uh-oh. I mean, this is just not good for this Washington team. But then for that sequence to have happened, that's so tough for the Spirit to swallow, and the Pride have to feel great about that. Again, stoppage time goals, 2 of them for Orlando. They come back, earn the tie, and somehow sneak out with a point. Final score, 2-2 between Orlando and Washington. I'm Maura Sheridan. Have a great night, everybody.